Welcome back to HRE Insights in 30. This is the podcast that brings practical, real world insights on compliance, fraud, financial risk management, and so much more. I'm your host, Justin Muscolino, CEO and founder of High Risk Education. Our guest today, I don't think you should need an introduction, but unfortunately, Scott, I have to do it. Um, so Scott Young is a senior governance, risk, and compliance leader, and he has a lot of experience helping organizations build risk and control frameworks. I go way back with Scott. I think it comes back to our time at FINRA, what, about 20 years ago?
Give or take.
Yeah, so this is great. I finally get you on our podcast today.
I love
So
it.
anyway, I got to welcome you. How you
Thank
doing?
you for having me. I'm doing great. It's been great to reconnect and reminisce about our FINRA days back when it was called NASD.
Yeah,
That's how
no.
long ago it was. And that was really the start of my financial services career. And it literally started in compliance, auditing broker dealers way back when. And you were training us how to do it.
I was wondering, I went through my closet and I found some NASD paraphernalia.
Nice.
You think it's worth anything?
Anything that's pre-merger, I think, has some amount of value.
All right, Scott. Thank you for your positiveness. I appreciate it.
Of
So,
course.
one of the first questions I love to ask all the guests is, you know, first, you built a really good career in governance, risk, compliance. So I'm really curious, like what drew you to this space? And also, what lessons did you learn early on with working with these organizations?
Sure. First, it's a great question. I think unless you have a legal background, you don't go into compliance, anything related to it, whether it's risk, governance, or the whole ecosystem that encapsulates it. What it is you're somewhere and then you kind of pivot that way, or the business pivots and you have to go with it. And that's kind of what happened with me. I wanted to get to New York because I'm not from there, and NASD was my way in. And I wanted to do investment banking or research, and that just wasn't in the cards for me. But that's okay because I blinked, and 20 plus years later, I'm doing something that's not terribly different from when we first met.
Yeah.
I've gone backwards, frontwards, and sideways, but GRC has been central to all of that. I've worked at very large firms like Merrill Lynch, pre-merger with Bank of America. I've done as small a shop as what I'm doing right now, where I'm advising a one-person startup. So I've seen the whole spectrum of traditional financial services, as they call TradFi, all the way up to FinTech, which is financial technology. And that's, organized chaos on a good day.
Organized chaos. I love it. I love it. So you brought up fintechs,
Yeah,
and that's what I really want to kind of segue into.
let's dive into it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, fintechs are popping up more and more, but
Mhm.
the thing is, like with governance, right?
Yes.
You know, it's kind of like governance matters more than companies realize, and it's something that we need to educate the folks out there, right?
Absolutely.
So I would say my question to you is why the governance aspect is so important. I want you to convey these to the fintechs out there so they understand.
Sure. My experience with FinTechs, I've been at three. Happy to name drop if you want me to. But some have been broker dealers, some have been card management companies with spend, and others have kind of been in between. What I've seen is most of them don't know what they don't know. And
Mm.
so things like governance are new to them. What's been reassuring is an openness to learn. But what we have to do is be prepared to deliver that in a way that's understandable to someone that's either very technical or very savvy with marketing, but has no regulatory background, has no idea what it means to be audited on a regular basis, has no idea what frameworks are, controls, policies, and procedures built out from those controls. Those are things that really are complex, and it's our job to make it understandable to the masses.
I agree with you. And like in all my experience dealing with fintechs, listen, they know their product and their service very well, but they're unfamiliar about all the influences that come about and what to deal with.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond regulatory. You're talking the operational, IT, there's so much more. So, that's a good part about educating. We can let them
It,
know about it.
it's funny you bring that up, and I won't name drop the company because they've gone on to do great things. But when I was at one of my first FinTechs, they thought that they needed a bank. And so they were starting to go through the process of getting a bank charter. It was fits and starts, but they forgot about the product that they already had while they were moving forward. And what comes with that is you look at the policies and procedures we had, you look at the controls that were part of that. And frankly, they were forgotten. This is in the days where things were being automated, but weren't yet there. So you do have to have human overlay with the software that's working in the background. And what we found was there were complaints that weren't being registered. And this goes into where we'll probably talk about reputational risk.
Yeah.
If your clients aren't happy, they voice it, and they don't necessarily go to FINRA. They probably go to what's now X. It used to be Twitter. And if they complain there, that's where they get a lot of eyes. And you can have more reputational damage in an hour than you used to be able to have in months. And that's the stuff that can put you under faster than regulatory oversight.
Yeah, like once you post it, it's there. I
It
mean, all it
is
takes is one
forever.
person to capture it. That's it, and it's going to live on forever.
Yeah,
And that's the thing with planning, making sure that you have everything in sync because it revolves around your product or whatever service you're offered.
that's
But
right.
that's a good thing. So let's go to the other side. What are some of the common mistakes that are usually made?
It starts with onboarding.
Hmm.
And when it goes back to the simplest of things, knowing your customer, old KYC. And I don't think people take the time to truly get to know their customers because, as cliche as it is to say that you know your customer, the biggest part of that is the risk determination from knowing your customer, what business line they're in, who the people are that are the control folks that make the decisions, and diligencing them. And if you don't know them well enough to risk score them, you don't know how much time you need to put into the business that they're bringing to you and risk rating it appropriately so that you can give it the TLC that it deserves or to protect your own business with the business that they're bringing in. Because not every client needs to be treated the same. Some are set them and forget them. Others require a lot of handholding, and some bring more risk to your company than you might know. So I really think it starts there right when you're onboarding a would-be client.
Yeah, no, I agree. It sets the tone. I mean, you let in one bad apple, and then all of a sudden we go back to that reputational risk,
Yeah,
and we wish you good luck,
exactly.
essentially.
On the flip side of that, because you said where do people not know some of the landmines that are out there?
Yeah.
Offboarding is another one that most fintechs never contemplate. They fail to see that relationships have a natural cycle, and sometimes they just either break down or it's time to part ways, or that business goes out of business themselves. You need to have a proper off ramp to protect yourself as well as them. And again, it goes back to reputation. If you don't offboard somebody well, it can come back to haunt you.
Yeah. And no, listen, we both experienced that one way or the other. Sometimes you're so happy to get customers on board, you forget about offboarding,
Exactly.
in a sense, right? So I got a question for you.
Sure.
Like with the compliance infrastructure that you need to build, right? Um, how can you scale it effectively as like your business grows? Because the fintechs that we deal with, we're hoping there are five-person shop right now that's going to grow and expand into new offerings down the road.
Sure. It's been my experience that you either buy it or you build it,
Mm,
and those are really the two paths that you can go. And with Claude Codex in particular now, it's all the rage. Folks can vibe code, so you can prompt. If people don't know what vibe coding is, you can prompt these large language models for somewhere between 20 and $50 a month to make you the infrastructure that you used to have to buy off the shelf and then right size for you. If you can prompt well enough now, you can build your own operational backbone. And that should give you enough time and runway to figure out if you need somebody technical down the road, to see if you have product market fit. And it takes time. I'm advising a guy right now, and it's taken him 4 months to get to two clients. And it just takes time. And he has a fantastic pedigree. He has everything going for him. but it just takes time. And I think the best part is that you have the tools at your disposal now
Hmm.
to, kind of bring your own outcomes about. And then you can see if you really do have something here to expand your own business offering.
Yeah, that's the key. I always go back to the planning,
Yep,
like, listen, this is my third startup.
I
And
love it.
unfortunately, you learn lessons early on, hopefully, that you apply and you get better at, right?
Of course.
And that's really big. Now, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Regarding like AML and KYC programs, right?
Mhm.
Um, do you think like fintechs out there are underestimating like that they have to do it and the value of why they have to do it?
I know they are from
Uh,
firsthand experience. AML compliance, anything that most business heads determine are non-revenue generating, are
yeah.
some of the first places to get cut when they have to pivot. They're also the slowest to grow. They're always reactionary areas that they're like, we're underwater. We need so much help. Please give us more resources. So they're always lean and mean teams to start. And I've just seen it too many times with the pivots that have to happen as the business evolves that they are usually an afterthought. And it's a shame because that's one of the highest risk areas is where the money moves.
Yeah.
And it's always a follow the money kind of conversation. And AML and KYC is front and center with the onboarding process. It's through the life cycle of the company as money is changing hands. And then as money goes out the door, that's part of the relationship management that again is tied very closely to the onboarding folks. Many times they're the same people. So the follow the money thing is an old story from when we were younger in our careers. That hasn't really changed. And that's where the risk is. And I just wish that business leaders paid a little bit more attention to
Well, hopefully every single one of them is listening and hearing you
it.
very loudly.
It's important.
It is important, that this is why I want you to come on this podcast because I want you to talk about like, what fintechs could really look out for and what they need to concentrate on, gaps and things like that. So, Scott, a big thank you for joining today. I really appreciate you sharing your perspective on what you experienced and what's going on out there in the world.
I would say this as a parting thought. If you see somebody that is wanting to break into this, do everything you can to educate them because I think there's a lot of minds out there that want to know this stuff. They don't like surprises. And where we're going now, I think we're only starting with all of these large language models that are helping a lot of people start their own businesses.
Mhm.
Use these tools at your disposal. They're 20 bucks a month, and you can really start to become whatever you want to.
Now, listen, there's a lot of great tools out there that people can leverage. The technology, a lot of it, believe it or not, is free.
It is.
If it's free, it's for me, is an old saying in my
I love it.
culture. But the thing is, you got to grasp it. Like
You
what
do.
we're doing at the FinTech Training Center, we're trying to give resources out there. It's up to the companies to really go for it. I mean, you can't push them. What was the saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't shove his head in the water.
Exactly.
Like
Can't
that.
force them to drink.
Yeah, something like that. Well, thank you again, Scott. Really
Pleasure was mine.
appreciate it. For our audience, thanks for tuning in. And as always, stay curious, stay disciplined, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.